The penthouse suite overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline sits in near darkness. Only the amber glow of a single desk lamp cuts through the shadows, casting long, predatory shapes across marble floors worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. In the world of kings and shadows, loyalty is currency and silence is survival. The camera glides through the hallway, past armed guards standing like statues, past walls adorned with expensive art that masks the blood money behind it. The air itself feels heavy, watchful, alive with unspoken danger. A door opens with a whisper. Maria Santos enters, moving with the practiced grace of someone who has learned to become invisible. A silver tray balanced in her hands carries coffee, black, no sugar, exactly 80 degrees Celsius. She has memorized every preference, every routine, every unspoken rule of serving Korea's most dangerous man. But tonight something is terribly wrong. Her left arm hangs slightly stiff at her side, the movement unnatural, forced. The sleeve of her crisp white uniform is pulled down past her wrist, buttoned tight despite the oppressive warmth of the room. A bead of sweat trails down her temple, not from heat, but from waves of agony she's desperately trying to suppress. Each breath is measured, controlled, a battle against the screaming pain radiating from her fractured bone. Pain has a language all its own, and predators speak it fluently. At the massive mahogany desk sits Kang Min-jun, known in Seoul's underworld simply as the Wolf. His tailored black suit costs more than a luxury car, fitted perfectly to his athletic frame. His face is sharp, carved from stone and silence, with dark eyes that miss nothing. At 38 years old, he has built an empire on fear, precision, and an uncanny ability to see what others desperately try to hide. He doesn't look up as Maria approaches. He never does. But his stillness is its own form of attention, a predator's awareness that extends beyond sight. Maria sets the coffee down with trembling fingers. The cup rattles, just once, barely audible, against the saucer. The sound echoes in the cavernous room like a gunshot. Min-jun's pen stops moving across the contract he's reviewing. The silence that follows stretches like a razor wire pulled taut, ready to snap. Maria bows, the motion slightly awkward, favoring her right side. She can feel his presence like heat from a flame, threatening to consume her if she stays too long. She turns to leave, counting her steps, controlling her breathing, desperate to reach the door before the facade crumbles completely. Stop. His voice cuts through the room like a blade through silk. Deep calm, absolute. The single word carries the weight of command that has sent grown men to their knees. Maria freezes, her heart hammering against her ribs so hard she's certain he can hear it. Every muscle in her body screams at her to run, but her feet remain rooted to the floor. Min-jun sets down his pen with deliberate slowness, the gesture more threatening than any weapon. For the first time he looks up. His dark eyes, devoid of warmth but filled with terrifying intelligence, lock onto her with the focus of a surgeon preparing to cut. In the kingdom of wolves nothing goes unnoticed. Not a trembling hand. Not a hidden wound. Not a lie wrapped in loyalty. His gaze travels from her face, taking in the pallor beneath her olive skin, down to the way she's holding her left arm against her body as if cradling something precious and broken, to the slight discoloration barely visible above her collar, a bruise she tried to cover with makeup but had spread during the day. The corner of his mouth doesn't move, but something shifts in his eyes. Recognition. Calculation. And something far more dangerous, curiosity mixed with the first spark of anger. Come here. Maria's breath catches in her throat. She has served this man for 3 years. She has seen him order executions with less emotion than ordering lunch. She has watched enemies disappear into the Seoul night, their screams swallowed by the city's indifference, never to be seen again. She has cleaned blood from marble floors and asked no questions because questions in this world are invitations to join the dead. And now his attention is entirely on her. The question isn't whether he's noticed. The question is what he'll do about it and whether she'll survive the answer. Maria takes one step forward. Then another. Each movement sends lightning bolts of agony through her fractured radius bone, hidden beneath fabric and fierce determination. She has walked through fire before, crossed deserts, fled violence, rebuilt her life from ashes. But this walk across expensive marble feels longer than any journey she's ever made. Min-jun rises from his chair, 6 feet of controlled power and barely contained violence. He moves around the desk with the fluid grace of someone trained in countless ways to kill, each step measured, predatory. The lamplight catches the sharp planes of his face, turning him into something between man and myth. He stops 3 feet away. Too close for a boss and employee. Close enough to see everything she's been hiding. Your arm. 2 words. Not a question. A command wrapped in silk-covered steel. Maria's mind races through a dozen responses and discards them all. Deny it? Impossible, he's already seen through her. Confess? Admit weakness? In this world, weakness is a death sentence, an invitation for vultures to descend. Her throat feels tight, her voice trapped behind walls of survival instinct and fear. The second stretch. His eyes narrow slightly, reading her silence like a book written in a language only he understands. She can see the calculations happening behind those dark eyes, the pieces clicking into place. I fell. The stairs. Clumsy. Her voice comes out smaller than she intended, a child's lie told to a father who knows every trick in the book. The words hang in the air between them, transparent as glass. Min-jun's expression doesn't change, but the temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. He takes one step closer, invading her space completely now. She can smell his cologne, expensive, subtle, mixed with the faint scent of gun oil and danger. You've worked for me for 3 years. You've never been clumsy. His voice is quiet, almost conversational, which makes it infinitely more terrifying. This is the voice he uses before someone disappears, before the world shifts and blood is spilled. Maria's legs feel weak. The pain in her arm pulses in time with her racing heart. She thinks of her daughter, Isabella, waiting at home. 7 years old, innocent, dreaming of dance classes and birthday parties. The entire reason Maria endures this dangerous world, walking the tightrope between survival and destruction. I'm fine. I can work. Another lie, this one costing her everything to maintain. She straightens her spine, trying to project strength she doesn't feel. Min-jun studies her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he steps back. The pressure releases slightly, though his eyes remain fixed on her like a hawk watching wounded prey. Get out. Maria doesn't wait for him to change his mind. She bows quickly, ignoring the protest from her injured arm, and retreats from the room with as much dignity as she can muster. Once the door closes behind her, she allows herself a single shuddering breath before forcing her legs to carry her down the hallway. Behind the closed door, Min-jun returns to his desk. But the contract sits forgotten. His mind is already working, piecing together the puzzle of his maid's injury. He's built an empire on reading people, on seeing the truth beneath layers of deception. And Maria Santos has never lied to him before. The city of Seoul sprawls below his windows, a beast of neon and shadow, beauty and brutality intertwined. Somewhere in those streets, something happened to his employee. Someone touched what belongs to him. And the wolf protects what's his. 24 hours earlier, the sun had been setting over the same city, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Maria had been walking through the market district, a neighborhood where old Seoul meets new, where traditional shops huddle beneath modern high-rises like children seeking shelter from a storm. She had been running an errand for Min-jun, picking up a package from a discreet location, a task he trusted only to her. The package was small, wrapped in brown paper, and she knew better than to ask questions about its contents. In 3 years, she had learned that curiosity was a luxury she couldn't afford. The market was crowded, full of evening shoppers and street vendors calling out their wares. The smell of street food mixed with exhaust fumes and the underlying scent of the Han River. Maria moved through the crowd with practiced ease, the package secure in her shoulder bag, her phone in her hand as she checked the time. Isabella's dance practice would end in an hour. She needed to finish this errand and catch the bus to pick up her daughter. She had been so focused on the time that she didn't notice them until it was too late. 3 men materialized from a narrow alley between 2 buildings. Young, probably early 20s, with the lean, hungry look of predators who've learned to survive by taking from others. Their eyes were hard, scanning the crowd for easy marks. They saw her, a woman alone, distracted, clearly not Korean, which made her an outsider in a country that rarely forgave foreigners for existing in their spaces. The tallest one, with a scar running down his left cheek, smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. It was the smile of someone who's discovered something valuable and has no intention of sharing. Maria saw them approaching and her instincts screamed danger. She clutched her bag tighter, changed direction, tried to blend into the crowd. But they were faster, more familiar with these streets than she could ever be. The scarred one grabbed her arm, her left arm, with crushing force. Maria's training kicked in, 3 years of watching Min-jun's security team, absorbing their awareness, their readiness. She tried to pull away, opened her mouth to scream. But the second man, shorter with dead eyes that had seen too much too young, pressed something hard against her ribs. A knife. The blade's presence was unmistakable, a promise of violence if she didn't comply. Your bag. Your phone. No. The words were Korean, harsh, demanding. Maria's Korean was functional but far from perfect. But some words need no translation. The language of violence is universal. Her mind raced. The package in her bag, whatever it contained, belonged to Min-jun. Losing it meant failing him, and failure in his world had consequences she couldn't afford to contemplate. But the knife pressed harder, breaking skin through her shirt, a warm trickle of blood sliding down her ribs. The third man, young enough to still have acne, grabbed for her phone. In that moment of distraction, Maria made a choice that would change everything. She threw her bag with the package into the scarred man's face and tried to run. It was the wrong choice. The man with the knife reacted instantly. He swept her legs, sending her crashing to the pavement. Her left arm took the brunt of the impact, landing at a wrong angle on the concrete. The sound of the bone breaking was audible even in the crowded market, a sharp crack that sent white-hot agony exploding through her nervous system. Maria screamed. The sound was swallowed by the market's noise, by the indifference of a crowd that had learned not to see violence, not to get involved, not to become victims themselves. The scarred man grabbed the bag, rifled through it with practiced efficiency. He pulled out her wallet, took the cash, threw the rest aside. The package fell to the ground, unnoticed in their haste. But her phone, a cheap model but her only connection to her daughter, disappeared into his pocket. The young one kicked her once, twice for good measure. The blows landed on her ribs, driving the air from her lungs. Then they were gone, melting back into the alley like rats into sewers, leaving her gasping on the ground, cradling her shattered arm. Around her, the market continued its business. A few people glanced her way, then quickly looked away. An old woman paused, seemed about to help, then shook her head and moved on. This was Seoul's survival law. Mind your business, protect yourself, let others face their own demons. Maria forced herself to her knees, her vision swimming with pain. Her arm hung at an unnatural angle, useless, screaming with each heartbeat. But the package, she saw it lying 3 feet away, partially hidden under a vendor's cart. She crawled to it, retrieved it with her good hand, tucked it into her shirt. Whatever it contained was worth this pain, worth the suffering, because losing it would cost her far more than a broken bone. Getting home had been a nightmare. She couldn't afford a hospital, no insurance, no legal status beyond her work visa that existed only because of Min-jun's connections. Questions would be asked. Authorities would be involved. And authorities meant deportation, meant losing everything she'd built, meant Isabella growing up in the same violence they'd fled. So she'd made her way to a clinic in one of Seoul's poorer neighborhoods, a place that asked no questions and accepted cash. An old doctor with kind eyes and shaking hands had set her arm, wrapped it, given her painkillers she couldn't afford but paid for anyway because she had no choice. You should go to a hospital. His words had been gentle but firm. Maria had shaken her head. The doctor had sighed, seen this story too many times before. Immigrants, undocumented workers, people living in the shadows of Korea's gleaming prosperity. At least rest for a few days. But rest was a luxury reserved for people with savings and safety nets. Maria had neither. She had a daughter depending on her income, a boss who demanded perfection, and a broken arm that she would have to hide until it healed. She'd returned to Min-jun's penthouse that night, delivered the package to his security chief, and said nothing about the mugging. The package was intact. The mission was complete. Her arm was her problem. But lying in her small apartment that night, Isabella sleeping peacefully beside her, Maria had felt something crack inside her that had nothing to do with bones. Fear. Deep, visceral fear of what would happen when Min-jun discovered the truth. Because men like him didn't forgive weakness, didn't accept excuses, didn't tolerate failure. Now, standing in the servants' corridor outside his office, that fear threatens to consume her completely. She knows he suspects. She knows he's seen through her lies. And she knows that tomorrow will bring consequences she can't predict. Inside his office, Min-jun makes a phone call. His security chief answers on the first ring. I need information. Yesterday evening. Market District. Check all our surveillance contacts. I want to know everything that happened within a 5-block radius of our pickup location. There's a pause on the other end, questions unasked but understood. And find out if Maria Santos filed a police report, visited a hospital, or made any unusual stops. The security chief confirms the order and hangs up. Min-jun stares out at the city, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. 3 years she's worked for him. 3 years of perfect service, never late, never complaining, never asking for more than she's given. Loyalty like that is rare in his world, precious as diamonds and twice as valuable. Someone hurt her. Someone touched what belongs to him. And in the kingdom he's built from blood and ambition, that is an offense that cannot go unpunished. But first he needs to know the truth. All of it. The night deepens over Seoul. In her small apartment, Maria lies awake, cradling her injured arm, listening to her daughter breathe. In his penthouse, Min-jun reviews security footage, his mind already planning, calculating, preparing for what comes next. The city sleeps, unaware that it has crossed a line it didn't know existed. Unaware that somewhere in its shadows, the wolf has caught the scent of blood and betrayal. And wolves, once they start hunting, never stop until their prey is found. Morning breaks over Seoul with cruel indifference to pain and consequences. Maria wakes to her alarm at 5 a.m., her arm throbbing with a persistent ache that the painkillers barely touch. She lies still for a moment, gathering strength for the day ahead, watching the early light filter through thin curtains. Beside her, Isabella stirs, her small face peaceful in sleep. 7 years old, with her mother's dark hair and eyes that still see the world as a place of wonder rather than danger. Maria brushes a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead, a gesture of love that costs her nothing but means everything. She thinks of the previous day's attack, of the moment she chose to throw away the bag rather than let them take it without a fight. Stupid perhaps. Reckless definitely. But in that split second, her survival instinct had calculated that returning to Min-jun empty-handed would be worse than any physical injury. In his world, trust is currency, and she'd been entrusted with something important. Failing him would have meant losing her position, her income, her ability to provide for Isabella. The broken arm would heal. Poverty and failure would destroy them both. She rises carefully, biting back a gasp as movement sends fresh waves of pain through her arm. The wrap is hidden beneath a long-sleeved undershirt, then covered by her uniform. She practices in the bathroom mirror, moving her arm, testing how much she can disguise the injury. It's not enough. She can see the stiffness, the way she naturally protects the limb, the slight hitch in her movements. But she has no choice. Calling in sick means questions she can't answer and money she can't afford to lose. At 6 a.m., she kisses Isabella's forehead, leaves her sleeping with the neighbor who watches her in the mornings, and takes 2 buses across Seoul to the gleaming high-rise where Min-jun's penthouse occupies the top 3 floors. The security team nods to her as she enters through the service entrance. Lee, the head of security, a man built like a tank with eyes that never rest, watches her more carefully than usual. She feels his scrutiny like a physical touch, wondering what he sees, what he suspects. The morning routine begins. Coffee first, brewed exactly as Min-jun prefers it. Her left hand trembles as she measures the grounds, and she has to steady her right hand with her injured left, ignoring the lightning bolt of pain the contact creates. The kitchen staff moves around her with practiced efficiency. Young-suk, the head cook, an older woman who's worked for Min-jun's family for 20 years, pauses beside Maria. "You look tired." The words are kind but probing. Young-suk has survived 2 decades in this household by being observant and knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Didn't sleep well. Isabella had nightmares. The lie comes easily, wrapped in partial truth. Isabella did have nightmares sometimes, memories of their journey to Korea, of the violence they'd fled in Honduras. Young-suk nods, accepting the explanation, but her eyes linger on Maria's face a moment too long. The coffee is ready. Maria lifts the tray, a mistake she realizes immediately as the weight pulls on her injured arm. She gasps, nearly drops it, catches it at the last second with her good hand. Coffee sloshes dangerously close to the rim. Young-suk reaches out to steady the tray, her expression shifting from concern to suspicion. "Maria, what's wrong with your arm?" "Nothing. Just slept on it wrong. Muscle cramp." Another lie, this one weaker than the first. Young-suk opens her mouth to push further, but Maria is already moving toward the hallway, desperate to escape interrogation. The walk to Min-jun's office feels eternal. Each step is measured, careful, the tray balanced precariously in her right hand while her left hangs useless at her side. Guards stand at their posts, and Maria swears she can feel every eye on her, analyzing, judging, reporting back to their boss that something is wrong with his maid. She reaches the office door, takes a breath, straightens her spine, forces her face into the neutral mask of professional service she's perfected over 3 years. The door opens. Min-jun sits at his desk, already dressed in another expensive suit, charcoal gray this time, with a black tie that makes him look like death in designer clothing. He doesn't look up as she enters, his attention focused on a laptop screen. But Maria knows better. She's learned to read the subtle signs, the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his fingers pause infinitesimally on the keyboard, the minute tilt of his head that indicates his full awareness of her presence. She crosses the room, sets down the coffee without incident this time and turns to leave. Wait. The word stops her cold. Her pulse jumps. She turns back, maintaining the neutral expression even as panic claws at her insides. Min-jun closes the laptop with deliberate care. He leans back in his chair, his dark eyes finally lifting to meet hers. The intelligence in that gaze is terrifying. He's not just looking at her, he's dissecting her, seeing past every wall she's constructed. You're favoring your right side. Your left arm hasn't moved naturally since you entered. The sleeve of your uniform is buttoned to the wrist despite the temperature in this room being 23 degrees Celsius, 3 degrees warmer than you usually prefer. Each observation is delivered in that calm, measured tone that makes her blood run cold. He's been watching her, studying her, cataloging every deviation from her normal behavior. Yesterday I asked you about your arm. You lied to me. It's not an accusation. It's a statement of fact delivered without emotion, which makes it infinitely worse. Maria's mind races. Deny again? Confess? Run. Every option seems equally disastrous. I need you to tell me the truth. The words are soft, almost gentle. But there's steel beneath them, a command that expects obedience. Maria's resolve cracks. 3 years of loyalty, of service, of gratitude for this job that saved her and Isabella from poverty, it all wars with her fear of what he'll do when he knows the truth. Men in his position don't tolerate weakness. They certainly don't tolerate employees who get mugged while running errands. I was attacked. Yesterday. In the market district. The words come out in a rush, a dam breaking. Min-jun's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. Something cold and dangerous slides behind his carefully controlled facade. The package? His first question, and it tells Maria everything about his priorities. She nods quickly. Safe. Delivered. Nothing was compromised. Only then does his gaze drop to her arm. Show me. It's not a request. Maria's hands shake as she unbuttons her sleeve, rolls it up to reveal the wrap beneath. The bruising has spread overnight, purple and black, creeping up her forearm like poison. Min-jun rises from his chair, moves around the desk. He takes her arm with surprising gentleness, his fingers probing carefully, reading the injury like a text written on her skin. When she winces, he stops immediately, his jaw tightening. How many? 3. Description. Maria closes her eyes, pulling up the memory she's been trying to suppress. Korean. Young. Early 20s. The leader had a scar on his left cheek. One carried a knife. They took my phone. Min-jun's hands drop to his sides. He takes a step back, and Maria can see the fury building behind his controlled exterior like magma beneath a volcano's surface. It's not directed at her, that much is clear. It's colder than that, more focused. Why didn't you tell me immediately? Because I was afraid. Because employees who get injured lose their jobs. Because I have a daughter who depends on me and losing this position would destroy us. Because in your world, weakness is death. She doesn't say any of this. Instead, she offers the truth he'll understand. The package was safe. That was what mattered. For a long moment, Min-jun studies her. Then he reaches for his phone, dials a number. My office. No. The head of security arrives within seconds, as if he'd been waiting in the hallway. His eyes flick between Min-jun and Maria, reading the tension, calculating the situation. Maria was attacked yesterday in the market district. 3 men. I want their identities within the hour. Use every resource we have. Traffic cameras, street surveillance, informants. Find them. Lee nods, his expression hardening. In his world, this is a declaration of war. Someone touched the wolf's property, and retribution will be swift and absolute. Maria stays in place, uncertain whether she's been dismissed. Min-jun turns back to her, his voice softer but no less commanding. You'll see our doctor. Immediately. Then you'll take the rest of the week off. But, not a negotiation. His tone brooks no argument. Maria bows, a gesture of submission and gratitude mixed together in a single motion. As she turns to leave, his voice stops her once more. Maria. She looks back. For just a moment, something human flickers across his face. Concern, perhaps, or respect. It's gone so quickly she might have imagined it. You should have told me. You're not disposable. You're valuable. And what's mine is protected. The words settle over her like a blanket, warm and suffocating at once. She's not just an employee. She's a possession. In his world, that's as close to safety as anyone can get. But it also means that whoever hurt her has just signed their own death warrant. The rest of the morning passes in a blur. Min-jun's personal physician, A discreet man who handles all medical matters for the organization, examines Maria's arm with professional efficiency. He confirms the fracture is healing properly but scolds her for not seeking immediate medical attention. The wrap is replaced with a proper cast, wrapped in material that can be hidden beneath clothing. You're lucky. Another day without proper care and you might have needed surgery. Maria nods, accepting the lecture. Luck is relative. She's lucky to be alive, lucky to still have her job, lucky that Min-jun's response was protection rather than dismissal. But she's also aware that luck runs out. In the penthouse's security center, Lee and his team are already at work. Multiple screens flicker with surveillance footage from yesterday evening, the images grainy but sufficient. They scrub through hours of footage, looking for 3 men matching Maria's description. It takes 43 minutes to find them. The market district has more cameras than most people realize. Government surveillance, private security systems, even traffic cameras that catch peripheral glimpses of pedestrian activity. Lee's team pulls footage from 17 different sources, creating a timeline of the attack. There. Lee points to a screen showing a narrow alley entrance. 3 young men emerge, looking around with the cautious awareness of predators checking for threats. The timestamp reads 6:47 p.m., 15 minutes before the attack. The team follows their movements across multiple cameras. They see the moment the men spot Maria, the brief conference where they make their decision, the approach. The actual attack happens in a blind spot between cameras, but they catch the aftermath. The 3 men leaving the alley, one carrying Maria's phone, another rifling through her bag. Run facial recognition. Check the gang database. I want names, addresses, known associates. The software takes 12 minutes to process. When the results appear, Lee's expression hardens. He picks up his phone, calls Min-jun. We found them. Small-time street gang operating in the market district. Leader is Park Tae-min, 23, multiple arrests for robbery and assault. The other 2 are his younger brother and a cousin. They run protection rackets and target foreigners because they know victims won't report to police. Min-jun's voice on the other end is eerily calm. Current locations? The cousin is at work, a construction site in Gangnam. The brothers share an apartment in Sangdong-gu. Shall I send a team? No. I'll handle this personally. Lee pauses. In 15 years of working for Min-jun, he's seen his boss delegate violence to others while maintaining distance from the actual bloodshed. This personal involvement is unusual, significant. Sir, this is beneath your position. Let me. Did I ask for your opinion? The words cut like a knife. Lee immediately defers. No, sir. I'll prepare a vehicle. Min-jun ends the call, stands from his desk. He removes his suit jacket, hangs it precisely on the back of his chair. From a drawer, he retrieves a shoulder holster, checks the weapon. A Glock 19, standard issue but customized with a suppressor. It's not his preferred method of sending messages, but efficiency matters. He's not doing this for show. He's not doing this to prove anything to his organization. He's doing this because someone touched what belongs to him, and in his world, that transgression requires personal attention. But there's something else too, something he doesn't acknowledge even to himself. In 3 years, Maria Santos has never asked for special treatment, never complained, never failed a task. She ran through pain and fear to complete an errand, protected his property at the cost of her own well-being, and tried to continue working with a broken bone rather than admit weakness. Loyalty like that is rare. Precious. Worth protecting. He pulls on a black jacket over the holster, checks his reflection in the office window. The man looking back is cold, efficient, dangerous. The wolf preparing to hunt. By noon, Maria is back in her small apartment, her arm properly treated and wrapped in a cast that the doctor promised would be discreet. Isabella comes home from school, full of stories about her day, her friends, her dreams of becoming a dancer like the one she sees on television. Maria listens, smiles, holds her daughter with her good arm and feels the weight of fear lifting slightly. Min-jun's protection is real. She's safe. Isabella is safe. But somewhere across the city, 3 men are about to discover that attacking the wrong woman on the wrong day has consequences they never imagined. The sun begins its descent toward the horizon, painting Seoul in shades of gold and shadow. In the market district, Park Tae-min counts the money from yesterday's robbery, laughing with his brother about the stupid foreign woman who thought she could fight back. In Gangnam, their cousin works a construction site, already spending his share on soju and lottery tickets. None of them know that the wolf is coming. None of them know that their time is measured in hours, not days. And none of them understand that in Seoul's underworld, there are people you can rob, people you can hurt, people you can kill without consequence. And then there are people who belong to Kang Min-jun. The difference is everything. The construction site in Gangnam towers against the afternoon sky, a skeleton of steel and ambition reaching toward the clouds. Workers move across the scaffolding like ants, their voices calling out over the sound of machinery and hammers. On the 7th floor, Young-ho, the youngest of the three muggers, is supposed to be securing rebar. Instead, he's leaning against a concrete pillar, smoking a cigarette and playing with Maria's phone. It's an older model, nothing special, but he's thinking about selling it for a few thousand won. Every bit helps when you're trying to scrape together enough money to escape the poverty that's defined your entire life. He doesn't notice the man in the black jacket until it's too late. Min-jun appears from the stairwell with the silence of a ghost. His movements are economical, practiced. This isn't his first time eliminating a problem, and the muscle memory of violence runs deep. Young-ho. The name, spoken quietly, makes the young man spin around. The cigarette falls from his lips. His eyes widen as he takes in the expensive clothes, the cold expression, the sense of barely contained danger radiating from the stranger. Oh. Min-jun pulls out his phone, shows Young-ho a screenshot from the surveillance footage. The image is clear, Young-ho and his companions surrounding Maria, the moment before the attack. Yesterday. Market district. Foreign woman. You remember? Young-ho's face goes pale. His hand moves toward the knife at his belt, a desperate, futile gesture. But Min-jun is faster. He closes the distance in 3 steps, grabs Young-ho's wrist, applies pressure to a nerve cluster that makes the young man's fingers go numb. The knife clatters to the concrete. She works for me. Which means you didn't just rob a random woman. You robbed me. Min-jun's voice is conversational, almost friendly. But his eyes are dead, empty of anything resembling mercy. I didn't know. We didn't know. Please, it was just what? Just an immigrant? Just an easy target? Just someone you thought wouldn't matter? Each question is punctuated by increased pressure on Young-ho's wrist. The bones grind together, threatening to snap. Young-ho whimpers, tears streaming down his face. Where are your friends? Park Tae-min and his brother? Oh. Songdong-gu. Apartment building on Wangsimniaro. 4th floor. Please, I'll tell you everything, just... Min-jun releases him abruptly. Young-ho stumbles back, cradling his wrist, hope flickering in his eyes that maybe, possibly, he'll survive this encounter. That hope dies when Min-jun pulls out the Glock. The suppressed shot is nearly silent, lost in the construction site's ambient noise. Young-ho's body drops, surprise frozen on his face. Min-jun catches him before he can fall over the edge, arranges him carefully behind a stack of concrete blocks where he won't be found until the end of the shift. He takes Maria's phone from the dead man's pocket, wipes it clean, pockets it. Then he's moving again, down the stairs, through the site, into the waiting car where Lee sits behind the wheel. One down. Where are the brothers? Still at the apartment. We have eyes on the building. Let's finish this. The drive across Seoul takes 40 minutes, traffic heavy with afternoon commuters. Min-jun sits in silence, his mind running through the confrontation ahead. 2 more men. 2 more lives about to end because they made the mistake of crossing a line they didn't know existed. But it's more than simple revenge. It's a message. In his world, power is maintained through reputation as much as through action. Word will spread that the wolf personally hunted down 3 street thugs for attacking his maid. The story will circulate through Seoul's underworld, a reminder that Kang Min-jun protects what's his, that even the lowest member of his household is under his shield. It's a message written in blood, the only language that matters in this world. The apartment building in Sangdong-gu is old, the kind of structure that survived decades through sheer stubbornness. Cracked concrete, rusting railings, the smell of kimchi and poverty mixing in the stairwell. This is the Seoul tourists don't see, the underbelly of the gleaming city, where people survive rather than thrive. Min-jun enters alone. Lee and 2 other security personnel wait outside, ready to intercept anyone who tries to flee. But Min-jun knows they won't. The Park brothers have no idea death is coming for them. 4th floor. Apartment 402. The door is cheap, the lock laughable to someone with Min-jun's resources and training. He picks it in under 30 seconds, slips inside without a sound. The apartment is small, cluttered with the detritus of wasted lives. Empty soju bottles, cigarette butts overflowing from ashtrays, stolen goods piled in corners waiting to be sold. The smell is overwhelming, sweat, alcohol, failure. Voices come from the main room. Laughter. The brothers are watching television, celebrating yesterday's successful robbery, planning their next target. Min-jun moves through the narrow hallway, his gun drawn but held low. He's not here for a shootout. He's here for an execution. He steps into the room. Park Tae-min sees him first. The scar on his face, the same scar Maria described, twitches as recognition fails to connect. He sees an expensive suit, a strange man in his apartment, and his hand moves toward the knife on the table. I wouldn't. Min-jun's voice freezes them both. The younger brother, Park Jin-woo, half rises from the couch, his eyes darting toward the door, calculating escape routes. Yesterday evening. Market District. You attacked a woman. Latino. Mid-30s. She tried to protect her bag, so you broke her arm and took her phone. Min-jun watches the memory click into place on their faces. Taemin's expression shifts from confusion to calculation. He's smarter than his companions, quicker to understand the threat. We'll give it back. The phone. The money. Everything. It was just business, nothing personal. She works for me. Which makes it very personal. The words drop like stones into water, ripples of understanding spreading across both men's faces. They know who Kang Min-jun is. Everyone in Seoul's underworld knows the wolf. But they never imagined that the foreign maid they attacked could be connected to one of the city's most dangerous men. We didn't know. If we'd known, we never would have. But you did. And now there are consequences. Taemin lunges for the knife. Min-jun shoots him twice, chest, head. Precise, professional. The body drops before the knife is even halfway off the table. Jin-woo screams, scrambles toward the door. Min-jun lets him get 3 steps before putting a round through his leg. The younger brother collapses, clutching his thigh, blood pouring between his fingers. Please, please, I have a family. A daughter. The words make Min-jun pause. He thinks of Maria, of Isabella, of the million ways poverty and desperation drive people to make terrible choices. For a moment, just a moment, he feels something almost like sympathy. Then he remembers Maria's face as she tried to hide her broken arm, the fear in her eyes, the pain she endured in silence because she was afraid of losing the job that keeps her daughter fed. So does she. The final shot is mercy, quick and clean. Jin-woo's body goes still, his blood spreading across the cheap linoleum. Min-jun stands in the silent apartment, surrounded by death, feeling nothing. This is who he is. This is what his world demands. Mercy is weakness and weakness is death. He pulls out his phone, calls Lee. Send a cleanup crew. Make it look like a gang dispute. I want this closed before the police start asking questions. Lee confirms, his voice efficient and emotionless. This is routine for them, the machinery of violence that keeps Min-jun's empire running smoothly. Min-jun leaves the apartment, descends the stairs, emerges into the late afternoon sunlight. The city continues around him, indifferent to the blood on his hands, the lives he's just ended. Seoul is built on violence, layer upon layer of suffering and survival, and what's 3 more bodies in a city that devours thousands? But as he slides into the back of the car, he feels something he hasn't felt in years. Not satisfaction. Killing has never brought him satisfaction. Not pleasure. Violence is a tool, not an entertainment. What he feels is certainty. The absolute knowledge that his actions were justified, that protecting Maria was the right choice, that loyalty deserves loyalty in return. He pulls out Maria's phone, looks at the cracked screen, the cheap case. Such a small thing to die for. Such a meaningless object in the grand scheme of his empire. But it represents something larger. Respect, protection, the code that holds his world together. He'll have it repaired, return it to her. A gesture, small but significant. The sun sets over Seoul, painting the sky in blood-red hues that seem appropriate for the day's work. In her apartment, Maria sits with Isabella, reading her daughter a story about princesses and dragons, trying to forget the danger she survived, the broken bone that throbs with each heartbeat. She doesn't know yet that the men who hurt her are dead. She doesn't know that her boss personally hunted them down, executed them in their homes, erased them from the world as if they never existed. But she'll learn. In Min-jun's world, everyone learns eventually that loyalty is rewarded and betrayal is punished with absolute finality. That night, Min-jun returns to his penthouse. He showers, washing away the smell of gun smoke and death, changes into casual clothes, pours himself a glass of whiskey. The amber liquid glows in the lamplight, warm and inviting. He thinks about the day's events, analyzing his decisions with the cold rationality that's kept him alive for 2 decades in this brutal business. The killings were necessary. The message was clear. His reputation is reinforced. Everything proceeded according to plan. But there's something else, something he doesn't quite understand. A sense of satisfaction that goes beyond professional success. Maria's loyalty moved him in a way he didn't expect. Her willingness to endure pain rather than fail him touched something he thought had died years ago. In his world, people betray each other for pocket change. They lie, steal, murder for the smallest advantage. Trust is a commodity so rare it's almost mythical. And yet this foreign maid, this woman with nothing, chose to protect his interests at significant personal cost. She didn't know he would find out. She didn't know he would care. She simply did what she thought was right, what loyalty demanded. Min-jun finishes his whiskey, sets down the glass with careful precision. Tomorrow he'll call Maria, tell her to return to work when she's ready. He'll have her phone repaired and returned. He'll increase her salary, not dramatically but enough to show appreciation. And he'll make sure every member of his organization knows what happened. That Maria Santos is under his personal protection. That anyone who touches her answers to him directly. It's a small gesture in the grand scheme of his empire. But in a world built on fear and violence, small gestures of loyalty matter more than anyone realizes. The city sleeps, unaware of the blood spilled in its shadows, the justice delivered in silence, the message written in corpses that will be found and whispered about in the morning. 3 men are dead. 1 woman is protected. And the wolf has reminded Seoul why his name is spoken in hushed tones, why his territory is respected, why crossing him is a death sentence delivered with cold efficiency. This is the way of his world. This is the price of safety in the kingdom of shadows. Anne Maria Santos, immigrant maid with a broken arm and fierce loyalty, has just become one of the most protected people in all of Seoul. Whether she realizes it or not. The news breaks at dawn. 3 bodies discovered in Songdong-gu, apparent gang violence. Another body found at a Gangnam construction site, possible workplace accident under investigation. The media coverage is minimal. Violence in Seoul's poorer neighborhoods rarely makes headlines unless it involves someone important. But in the underworld, the story spreads like wildfire. Not the official version, but the truth that runs through channels police can never access. 3 street thugs killed by the wolf himself. Personal execution. Message delivered with brutal clarity. By 8 a.m., every gang leader, crime boss, and street operator in Seoul knows the story. They know about the maid, the mugging, the broken arm. They know that Kang Min-jun personally hunted down the perpetrators and ended them without hesitation. The reactions vary. Some laugh nervously, making jokes about the wolf's overreaction to such a minor incident. Others nod with understanding. In their world, respect is everything and protecting what's yours is fundamental. A few are disturbed by the implications, by the message that even Min-jun's lowest employee is off limits. But everyone agrees on one thing: the rules have been reinforced. The boundaries have been redrawn. And crossing Kang Min-jun in any form is suicide. In his penthouse, Min-jun receives reports throughout the morning. Lee briefs him on the cleanup operation. The bodies removed, the crime scene staged to look like gang disputes. The police investigation already pointing in carefully orchestrated directions that lead nowhere near Min-jun's organization. The cousin was found at 7 a.m. The brothers at 8:30. Police are treating them as separate incidents for now, but there's pressure to connect them. What's our exposure? Lee's question is practical, professional. Min-jun considers it carefully. Minimal. The surveillance footage has been scrubbed. Our people were discreet. The weapons are untraceable. Even if police suspect organization involvement, they can't prove anything. What about witnesses? None that matter. The construction site was busy, but nobody saw anything unusual. The apartment building's residents know better than to talk to police about what happens in their neighborhood. Min-jun nods, satisfied. This is the machine he's built, efficient, thorough, insulated from consequences. Violence happens in the shadows and stays there, hidden behind layers of plausible deniability and controlled information. But even as he confirms the practical success of the operation, his mind is elsewhere. He thinks about the moment he pulled the trigger, the look in Park Jin-woo's eyes when he mentioned having a daughter. The split second of hesitation before Min-jun finished the job. He's killed before. Many times. It's part of his world, an accepted necessity of maintaining power. But this felt different. This was personal in a way his other killings haven't been. This was about protecting someone who couldn't protect themselves, about enforcing a code that goes beyond business and territory. This was about loyalty. And in his world, loyalty is the rarest commodity of all. Across the city, Maria wakes to Isabella's gentle shaking. Her arm throbs. The pain medication has worn off during the night, but she smiles at her daughter, pushes through the discomfort to prepare breakfast. The television is on in the background, morning news playing to an empty room. Maria half listens as she cooks, her attention focused on making sure Isabella eats properly, has her school supplies ready, knows she's loved despite the chaos of their lives. The news anchor mentions the bodies found in Songdong-gu. Gang violence suspected. Police investigating. The words wash over Maria without recognition. She has no idea that the men who attacked her are dead, that their blood was spilled in her name, that the most dangerous man in Seoul personally executed them as payment for her broken arm. In her world, the powerful don't care about people like her. The system doesn't protect immigrants and single mothers. Justice is a luxury reserved for those who can afford it. She has no idea that she's wrong. That she's under protection more powerful than any law enforcement could provide. That she's become, in a very real sense, untouchable. At 9 a.m. her phone rings. Not her old phone, that's still being repaired, but a new one, top-of-the-line model, delivered by courier 30 minutes earlier with a simple note. Temporary replacement. Your old phone being repaired. Kim-jae. The caller ID shows Min-jun's private number. Maria's heart jumps. She answers with trembling fingers. Hello. Maria. How is your arm? His voice is as calm and controlled as always, but there's something different in it. A warmth she's never heard before, subtle but unmistakable. Better. The doctor said it's healing well. Thank you for the phone. You'll return to work when you're ready. No rush. Take the full week. Yes, sir. Thank you. There's a pause. Maria can hear him breathing on the other end, can sense that he wants to say something more but is choosing his words carefully. Maria. The men who attacked you won't bother you again. Or anyone else. The words are simple, almost casual. But their meaning crashes over Maria like a wave. She remembers the muggers' faces, their casual cruelty, the way they laughed as they hurt her. And now Min-jun is telling her, in his coded way, that they're gone. Her first reaction is shock. Her second is fear. Fear of what kind of man she works for, what he's capable of, what world she's truly entered. But her third reaction, the one that settles in her chest and stays there, is something unexpected. Relief. Gratitude. And a strange sense of justice being served. Thank you. The words are inadequate, too small for what he's done. But they're all she has. You're valuable to me. That won't be forgotten. He ends the call before she can respond. Maria stands in her small kitchen, holding the expensive phone, processing the reality of her situation. She's not just an employee. She's not disposable. She's under the protection of a man who kills to defend what's his. It should terrify her. In many ways it does. But it also means safety for Isabella, security in a world that offers neither. It means that the violence she's fled from, the danger that's chased her across continents, has been replaced by a different kind of violence. One that protects rather than destroys. She thinks of the men who attacked her, wonders briefly if they had families, people who loved them. Then she remembers the knife against her ribs, the casual cruelty in their eyes, and the sympathy evaporates. This is Seoul's justice. This is the law of Min-jun's world. And she's part of it now, whether she chose it or not. In his office, Min-jun ends the call and turns his attention to other matters. His empire doesn't run itself. There are shipments to oversee, territories to manage, rivals to outmaneuver. The killing of 3 street thugs is already fading into the background, one more piece of violence in a life built on bloodshed. But something has changed. Lee notices it first, a slight softening in Min-jun's demeanor when Maria's name comes up in conversation. The other staff notice it too, the way the wolf speaks about his maid with a respect usually reserved for high-ranking members of the organization. The message spreads through the household, then through the organization, then through Seoul's underworld. Maria Santos is protected. Untouchable. Under the wolf's personal shield. For most of Min-jun's employees, this means nothing beyond professional respect. But for Maria, it changes everything. She becomes a symbol of Min-jun's loyalty, proof that he values service and dedication, that working for him isn't just about fear but also about protection and reward. 3 days pass. Maria rests, heals, spends time with Isabella. The new phone becomes a lifeline, better than her old one, with features she's never had access to before. She doesn't ask how much it costs. She doesn't want to know. On the 4th day her old phone is delivered, fully repaired, the screen replaced, the case new. Inside is all her data, her photos of Isabella, her messages. It's been handled with care, returned to perfect condition. The gesture moves her more than words can express. In her world things don't get fixed. They break and get replaced with cheaper versions. But Min-jun had her phone repaired, preserved her memories, treated her possessions with respect. It's such a small thing. And it means everything. She returns to work on the 5th day, her arms still in a cast but functional. The household staff treat her differently now, not with fear but with a respect she hasn't experienced before. Even Young-suk, who's worked there for 20 years, defers to her in small ways, acknowledging the shift in Maria's status. Min-jun is in his office when she arrives with his morning coffee. She enters quietly, sets down the tray with her good hand, bows. "Welcome back." He doesn't look up from his documents, but his voice carries genuine warmth. Maria feels tears prick her eyes. Gratitude, relief, the overwhelming emotion of being valued in a world that usually treats people like her as disposable. "Thank you. For everything." Min-jun finally looks up. His dark eyes meet hers, and for just a moment, the mask of the wolf slips. She sees the man beneath, complicated, dangerous, but capable of loyalty and protection for those who earn it. "You've earned it. Your daughter, Isabella? She's safe. You're safe. As long as you're part of this household, that won't change." The promise hangs in the air between them, more binding than any contract. Maria nods, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She leaves the office, returns to her duties. But something fundamental has shifted. She's no longer just surviving. She's protected. She belongs to something larger than herself, dangerous and dark but also oddly secure. In the weeks that follow, Maria's status in the household becomes evident. Other staff members seek her advice, treat her opinions with weight. Security personnel nod respectfully when she passes. Even Lee Min-jun's stone-faced head of security acknowledges her with small gestures of respect. The story of what happened spreads beyond the organization. Other Mafia families hear about the wolf's reaction to his maid being attacked. Some laugh it off as excessive. Others see the wisdom. A leader who protects even his lowest employees inspires fierce loyalty throughout the ranks. One afternoon, Maria is shopping in a different market. She avoids the one where she was attacked, when she notices a group of young men watching her. Her heart jumps, old fear flooding back. But then they see her face, recognize her from descriptions circulating through the streets, and they melt away without a word. She's marked now. Protected by association with Seoul's most dangerous man. It's a strange kind of safety, one that comes with its own complications, but it's more than she's ever had before. At home, Isabella notices the changes. The better food Maria can afford now that Min-jun increased her salary, the new clothes, the way her mother seems less afraid, more confident. The 7-year-old doesn't understand the full story, but she knows something good has happened. "Mama, are we safe now?" The question comes one evening as Maria tucks her into bed. It breaks Maria's heart and heals it simultaneously. She smooths Isabella's hair, kisses her forehead. "Yes, mi amor. We're safe." And for the first time since they fled Honduras, since they crossed borders and oceans seeking refuge from violence, Maria believes it. The city of Seoul continues its eternal rhythm, indifferent to the small dramas playing out in its shadows. 3 men are buried, their deaths attributed to gang violence, their names forgotten by everyone except their families. A maid goes back to work, her arm healing, her status elevated. A crime boss returns to managing his empire, his reputation enhanced, his message delivered. This is the way of the underworld. Violence breeds loyalty. Protection creates obligation. And in the kingdom of wolves, the pack protects its own. But in the highest levels of Seoul's criminal hierarchy, some observers note the incident with calculating interest. The wolf showed weakness, they whisper. Sentimentality over a maid. Personal involvement in matters beneath his status. Perhaps the wolf is softening, becoming vulnerable. These whispers reach certain ears, plant certain seeds. In the shadows of Seoul's underworld, rivals begin to circle, sensing opportunity, calculating risks, planning moves that won't become apparent for months or years. Min-jun is aware of the whispers. He's aware that his actions have been noted, analyzed, judged. But he doesn't care. He's built his empire on strength and fear, yes, but also on loyalty and respect. Maria's devotion, her willingness to suffer rather than fail him, reminded him why loyalty matters more than reputation. The rivals can whisper all they want. The wolf knows his strength. And anyone who mistakes loyalty for weakness will learn the same lesson the 3 muggers learned. Swiftly. Brutally. Finally. 6 weeks after the incident, Seoul enters winter. Snow falls softly over the city, transforming its harsh concrete beauty into something almost magical. The markets glitter with holiday decorations, the streets fill with shoppers, and for a brief moment, even the shadows seem less threatening. Maria's arm has healed completely. The cast came off 2 weeks ago, and while she still favors it slightly, the doctor assures her full function will return with time. She's adapted to her new status in Min-jun's household, no longer just a maid but something more, a trusted member of his inner circle in ways she's still discovering. Isabella thrives. New clothes, better food, and most importantly, a mother who seems less afraid, less exhausted. Maria enrolled her in the dance classes she's always dreamed of, watching with pride as her daughter pirouettes and leaps, expressing joy through movement. On a Friday evening, Min-jun calls Maria to his office. She enters with the usual tray, but he waves it aside. Sit. The command surprises her, but she obeys, taking the chair across from his massive desk. For a moment, he simply studies her, his expression unreadable. Your performance has been exemplary. Not just before the incident, but especially after. You've handled everything with grace and discretion. Maria nods, unsure where this is leading. I'm promoting you. Head of household staff. You'll oversee all domestic operations, manage the other employees, report directly to me on household matters. The words take a moment to process. Maria stares at him, shock rendering her speechless. Head of household staff is a position of significant responsibility, typically held by someone Korean, someone with decades of experience, someone who understands the culture and language far better than she ever will. I'm not qualified. My Korean isn't perfect, You're loyal. You're capable. You've proven yourself. That's all that matters. His tone brooks no argument. Maria swallows hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The salary increase is substantial. 25%. Plus housing benefits. There's an apartment in the building better than your current place. 3 bedrooms. Isabella can have her own room. Tears spill down Maria's cheeks before she can stop them. She spent 7 years struggling, fighting for every small improvement in their lives, watching her daughter grow up in cramped spaces with second-hand everything. And now, in a moment, everything changes. Thank you. I won't let you down. I know you won't. Min-jun reaches into his desk, pulls out an envelope. Inside is a key. The apartment is on the 15th floor. Move in whenever you're ready. Lee will help with the transition. Maria takes the envelope with shaking hands. She wants to say more, to express the gratitude overwhelming her, but words feel inadequate. Instead, she bows deeply, a gesture of profound respect and obligation. You've earned this, Maria. Remember that. Not given out of charity. Earned through loyalty and sacrifice. The words anchor her, remind her that this isn't pity but recognition. She nods, wipes her tears, stands with as much dignity as she can muster. One more thing. Min-jun's voice stops her at the door. She turns back. If anyone ever threatens you or Isabella again, you tell me immediately. No more hiding injuries. No more trying to handle things alone. Understood? Yes, sir. Good. Now get some rest. You have a household to run starting Monday. Maria leaves the office, walking through the penthouse in a daze. The other staff members notice her expression, the envelope in her hands, and word spreads quickly. By evening, everyone knows about her promotion, and reactions range from genuine happiness to carefully concealed resentment. But Maria doesn't care about the politics. She's thinking about Isabella's face when she sees her new bedroom, thinking about the security this position provides, thinking about how far they've come from the violence and poverty they fled. That night, Min-jun stands at his office window, looking out over Seoul's glittering expanse. The city sprawls beneath him like a kingdom, beautiful and brutal, offering both opportunity and destruction to those brave or desperate enough to seize it. He thinks about Maria, about the loyalty she's shown, about the decision to promote her. It's more than reward for service. It's an investment in the kind of organization he wants to build, one where loyalty is recognized, where dedication is rewarded, where even those at the bottom can rise through merit. But it's also a statement to his rivals, to those whispering that he's gone soft. He's showing them that strength isn't just about violence and fear. True power comes from inspiring loyalty so fierce that people will break their own bones rather than betray you. The rivals don't understand this. They see only the surface, a crime boss who cares about a maid. They don't see the deeper truth, that Maria's loyalty is worth more than 100 soldiers bought with fear and money. His phone buzzes. A message from Lee. We have a problem. New player in the Gangnam district. Chinese triad moving in on our territory. They're testing boundaries, seeing how we'll respond. Min-jun reads the message without reaction. There's always a new problem, a new threat, a new rival thinking they can carve out a piece of his empire. This is the eternal game played in shadows and blood. But tonight he's not thinking about triads or territory disputes. He's thinking about a single mother with a broken arm who chose loyalty over safety, who protected his interests at personal cost, who reminded him why he built this empire in the first place. The game continues. The threats multiply. The violence never ends. But sometimes, in rare moments, there's something worth protecting beyond power and profit. Sometimes there's loyalty. Pure, simple, fierce. And that, Min-jun has learned, is the most dangerous weapon of all. Across the city in her small apartment that she'll soon leave behind, Maria holds Isabella close. Her daughter sleeps peacefully, unaware of the promotion, the new apartment, the transformation of their lives. Maria watches her breathe, feels the steady rhythm of her heartbeat, and whispers a prayer of gratitude to whatever gods or fate or luck brought them to this moment. She thinks about Min-jun, about the man behind the wolf's reputation. Dangerous, yes. Ruthless, certainly. But also capable of loyalty, of protection, of recognizing worth in places others ignore. She's bound to him now, not just by employment but by obligation and gratitude. In his world, debts like this run deep, last forever. But Maria doesn't resent it. For the first time in years she feels secure. Safe. Protected. Even if that protection comes wrapped in violence and shadow. The snow continues to fall over Seoul, covering the city in white silence. In the morning the sun will rise, the streets will fill with life, and the eternal struggle for survival and power will continue. But tonight in this moment there's peace. For Maria Santos, immigrant and survivor, promoted to head of household in a crime lord's empire. For Isabella Santos, 7 years old and dreaming of becoming a dancer, unaware of the dark protection surrounding her. And for Kang Min-jun, the wolf of Seoul, who learned that loyalty is measured not in money or fear, but in broken bones endured in silence and duty fulfilled despite impossible odds. The city sleeps. The empire stands. And in the shadows new threats gather. But that's a story for another day. Tonight, loyalty has been rewarded. And in the kingdom of wolves, that's the closest thing to justice that exists. But in Seoul's underworld, endings are just new beginnings. The wolf protects his own. His rival's circle. And Maria Santos, head of household, will discover that rising in the shadows means embracing the darkness. The Forbidden Empire continues,